Turns out those custom purple geometric curtains I spent a small fortune on weren't just decorative. They were actually infidelity detection devices. There I was, Wednesday morning, scrolling through Facebook in my silk pajamas while sipping overpriced coffee that Curtis insisted we import directly from some life-changing roastery in Seattle. My husband of 12 years was supposedly on day 2 of his heroic mission to help a buddy with a construction project in Mexico. The same husband who once needed YouTube tutorials to hang a shower curtain rod was suddenly channeling his inner HGTV host south of the border. Sure, Curtis. I nearly choked on my Ethiopian blend when Esme Wilcox's perfectly filtered face appeared in my feed. Waking up in paradise? Blessed Cancun life, she captioned, with a location tag confirming exactly where paradise apparently was. But it wasn't her annoying hashtags or suspiciously fresh-faced morning selfie that stopped my scrolling finger. It was what was behind her. Those unmistakable purple geometric curtains I'd custom ordered from that pretentious designer in New York who charged me triple because they were conceptual textile art, not just curtains. The same curtains that hung exclusively in the master bedroom of our Cancun vacation home. The vacation home where my husband was definitely not supposed to be, and certainly not with Esme. I've been divorced 3 times, but it was never my fault. Wilcox from Unit 7B. I set down my coffee mug so carefully you'd think it contained nitroglycerin instead of caffeine. With the steady hands of someone who's about to find out if their entire life is a lie, I walked to our bathroom. And there it was, Curtis's wedding ring, sitting on the marble countertop like a gold-plated confession. The man who'd kissed me goodbye 48 hours earlier with promises to miss me every second had managed to forget the symbol of our marriage, but remembered to pack our neighbor. How thoughtful. Well, this is a plot twist worthy of my Monday night book club, I muttered to my reflection, which stared back with an expression that said, "Honey, you knew something was off when he suddenly developed an interest in Mexican architecture." I picked up Curtis's wedding ring, slipping it onto my thumb where it hung loose. 12 years of marriage suddenly felt as substantial as this circle of metal, hollow in the middle and smaller than it appeared from a distance. My phone buzzed with a text from Curtis. "Miss you, babe. Working hard here. The construction site has terrible reception. Talk tomorrow?" I laughed so hard I nearly swallowed his wedding ring. Construction site? Sure. That's one way to describe what was being erected in our vacation house. I texted back with the digital equivalent of a Stepford wife smile. "Miss you too. Don't work too hard." What Curtis didn't know was that beneath my perfectly crafted emoji heart, a different kind of construction was beginning. The careful, methodical blueprints of his destruction. You see, before becoming a professor of comparative literature at Northwestern, I spent 4 years analyzing how the great literary characters executed their revenge plots. Medea, Hamlet, Count of Monte Cristo. They were amateurs compared to what I was about to orchestrate. I poured myself another cup of coffee and opened my laptop. First stop, our joint bank accounts. In 12 years of marriage, Curtis had never once checked the transaction history. He trusted me completely with our finances, which was both sweet and incredibly stupid on his part. I transferred half of our savings into my private account, the one I'd maintained since before our marriage, the one Curtis had no idea existed. Not because I'd been planning for this moment, but because my mother, with 3 divorces under her designer belt, had drilled financial independence into me since birth. "Men are like mercury thermometers, Pearl," she'd say while reapplying her lipstick. "Fun to keep around until they break and poison everything." Next, I pulled up the deed to our Cancun property. Curtis had insisted on putting it solely in his name for tax purposes. I'd agreed because he'd made it sound complicated and boring, and because I trusted him. My mistake. But what Curtis didn't know was that Mexican property law had been the subject of my department colleague's doctoral thesis, and over many margaritas, she'd explained exactly how foreign-owned property worked in Mexico. I knew the property rights of a spouse better than Curtis knew his golf handicap. I emailed our family lawyer, Diane, who'd handled my parents' estate and knew more about my personal life than my own diary. Diane. Unexpected situation. Need to discuss rights to foreign property in divorce proceedings. Available today? Her response came back in 3 minutes. My 2 p.m. canceled. Come then. Bring documents. Are you okay? I typed back, never better. Finding your husband's infidelity before he remembers to flush is oddly empowering. I glanced at the clock. It was 9:27 a.m. Curtis would be lounging with Esme for at least 3 more days, completely unaware that his comfortable life was being dismantled from 1,000 miles away by a woman he'd grossly underestimated. I walked to our closet, the his and hers space that was 70% his because apparently custom-tailored suits required more real estate than a woman's entire wardrobe. Inside, I ran my fingers over his precious collection of ties, each one perfectly arranged by color and pattern. Curtis spent more time organizing these silk strips than he'd spent planning our anniversary last year. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about the affair. This was about years of small dismissals, of not nows, and you're overreacting, and we'll renovate your office next year. This was about a man who'd been mentally checking out of our marriage long before he physically checked into our vacation home with someone else. I pulled out my phone and opened Instagram, scrolling through our carefully curated couples posts. The Holloways take Manhattan, anniversary dinner at Alinea, sunset in Santorini. We looked perfect. We were the couple other people envied. But as I studied Curtis's face in each photo, I realized something I'd been missing. He had the same expression in every picture, not of joy or love, but of someone posing for a corporate headshot. Presentable, appropriate, marketable. I set my phone down and laughed until tears came. All this time, I'd been married to a man who treated our relationship like a LinkedIn profile. Something to maintain for appearances, but not something that actually reflected who he really was. Well, Curtis, I said to our empty bedroom, I hope those curtains were worth it. Because, honey, the drapes are about to catch fire, and you don't even know you're still inside the house. I picked up my phone and sent another text to my husband. Quick question. Do you think those purple curtains in Cancun need dry cleaning? They might have witnessed things they shouldn't have. Then I deleted it before hitting send. The element of surprise was too valuable to waste on a momentary satisfaction. Instead, I started making calls. Because while Curtis was busy playing house with Esme in our vacation home, I was about to become the architect of the biggest demolition project of his life. And unlike my husband, I actually knew what I was building. By the time I walked into Diane's law office at 2 p.m., I'd gone through the 5 stages of marriage grief. Denial. Maybe it's a different pair of purple geometric curtains. Anger. I paid $200 for those curtains. Bargaining. Maybe if I'd gone on the trip, this wouldn't have happened. Depression. 12 years down the drain. And finally, acceptance. It's amazing how accepting you become when you're plotting someone's social and financial demise. Diane's office was exactly what you'd expect from Chicago's most ruthless divorce attorney. Minimalist, expensive, and slightly terrifying. Like walking into a West Elm showroom designed by someone who eats prenuptial agreements for breakfast. Pearl, Diane greeted me, not bothering to stand. Her handshake was firm enough to crack walnuts. Tell me everything and don't sugarcoat it. I'm allergic to sugar and lies. I pulled out my phone and slid it across her glass desk. My neighbor Esme posted this on Facebook this morning. Those are the curtains from our Cancun bedroom. My husband is supposedly helping a friend with construction in Mexico. Diane glanced at the photo, then back at me with the efficiency of someone who bills $750 an hour. And the ring? Wedding ring left on the bathroom counter. He forgot it. She nodded once. Classic Curtis move. I blinked. Excuse me? Oh, honey. Diane's perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose a fraction. You're not the first Northwestern faculty wife I've met with this week. Curtis has quite the reputation at faculty events. I just never had confirmation until now. The air left my lungs like I'd been sucker punched by a tenured professor. There are others? Academia is a small world, Pearl. Smaller than the display of loyalty in Curtis's heart. Diane pulled out a legal pad. But let's focus on what matters now. You said the Cancun property is in his name only? I nodded, still processing the revelation that my husband's extracurricular activities were apparently common knowledge in academic circles. Had everyone been exchanging knowing glances behind my back at department parties while I proudly introduced myself as Mrs. Holloway? Good news! Diane said, typing rapidly on her computer. Mexico has some interesting property laws that might work in our favor. Also, I assume you want to absolutely destroy him? I smiled for the first time that day. I want him to feel like he showed up to teach a class and realized he forgot to wear pants. Amateur hour. I'm thinking we make him feel like he showed up to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award and instead got served divorce papers on stage while his tax returns are projected on the screen behind him. For the next hour, Diane and I constructed a plan so meticulously evil it would make Machiavelli take notes. She explained how we could not only get half of everything, including the Cancun property, but also how we could time everything for maximum impact. The key, Diane explained, isn't just winning. It's making sure he knows exactly why he's lost. Men like Curtis don't learn from their mistakes. They learn from their humiliations. As I left Diane's office with a folder full of legal documents and a heart full of vindication, my phone buzzed with a notification. Esme had posted again. Sunset cocktails on the private terrace Tator blessed. In the background, Curtis's arm was visible, his tan line where his wedding ring should be practically glowing white against his sunburned skin. I zoomed in on the photo, noticing they were drinking from the hand-painted margarita glasses I'd bought on our anniversary trip last year. The same glasses Curtis had called tacky tourist garbage when I brought them home. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity that only comes from sleeping 9 uninterrupted hours in a bed that no longer contained a cheater. I had work to do. First, I called Margot, the head of Curtis's department at the university. We'd become friends over the years, bonding over our shared love of obscure Russian literature and expensive Pinot Noir. Margot, it's Pearl. Got a minute? For you? Always. What's up? How's Mexico treating Curtis? I paused, savoring the moment. Funny you should ask. Curtis isn't in Mexico for construction. Well, he is in Mexico, but he's more focused on destroying something than building. Silence then. Oh, Pearl. No. Oh, yes. With Esme Wilcox, in our vacation house. They're drinking from my anniversary margarita glasses and posting it on social media like I don't have internet access. Margot's gasp was so dramatic I could practically hear her pearls clutching themselves. That absolute sandwich short of a picnic. What are you going to do? Well, that's partly why I'm calling. Doesn't the university have that big donor dinner next week? The one Curtis has been preparing for all month? The Whitman Foundation event? Yes. Thursday night. Curtis is giving the keynote. He's been insufferable about it, making everyone review his speech. The speech saved on our home computer? The one he asked me to proofread but then said my suggestions were undermining his academic authority? I could practically hear Margot's smile through the phone. Pearl Holloway, what exactly are you planning? Let's just say his presentation might need some last-minute edits. Nothing major, just some visual enhancements. After hanging up with Margot, I drove to our bank. Martin, our personal banker who'd handled our accounts since we moved to Chicago, greeted me with his usual enthusiasm. Mrs. Holloway, what a pleasure. What can I do for you today? I need to make some changes to our accounts, Martin. Curtis and I are restructuring our finances. 45 minutes and several signatures later, Curtis no longer had access to our joint savings account. I hadn't emptied it. I wasn't stupid. But I had made sure that any withdrawals now required my signature. A small insurance policy. On my way home, I stopped by our local locksmith, Tony, who'd helped us when we got locked out last winter. He remembered me instantly. The professor's wife. How's that front door lock working for you? Beautifully, Tony. But I'm actually here because I need to change it, and possibly add a few more. Tony raised an eyebrow. Everything okay? Just peachy. My husband's been so busy lately he keeps losing his keys. Thought I'd surprise him with a whole new security system. That's thoughtful of you. Oh, I'm just full of surprises lately. By that evening, I had new locks on every door, access to all our important financial accounts, and a dinner date with Diane and Margot to finalize what we were now calling Operation Curtain Call. As I sipped my wine at Gibson's Steakhouse, watching Diane and Margot plot Curtis's downfall with the enthusiasm of generals planning a major offensive, my phone lit up with another text from my oblivious husband. Miss you, babe. Project taking longer than expected. Might need to stay till Sunday. Don't worry about me. I showed the text to Margot, who snorted so hard she nearly shot Cabernet through her nose. The project is definitely taking longer than expected. Wonder if Esme knows she's being referred to as the project? Diane raised her glass. To Curtis Holloway, who's about to learn that "don't worry about me" is the academic equivalent of saying, "What's the worst that could happen in a horror movie?" I clinked my glass against hers, feeling lighter than I had in months. And to Custom Curtains, the unexpected heroes of this story. The waiter approached, refilling our wine glasses. "Celebrating something special, ladies?" I smiled, a genuine smile that reached my eyes for the first time in days. "Just a little home renovation project. You could call it an extreme makeover." Margot leaned in, her voice dropping to a theatrical whisper. The demolition phase is always my favorite part. Friday morning arrived with an unexpected email from Dean Walter Palmer himself. The subject line read simply, "Confidential, department chair position." I nearly spit out my coffee. The department chair of comparative literature was retiring next semester, and the position was being offered to me? Now? The timing seemed almost too perfect. I opened the email with the caution of someone disarming a bomb. "Professor Holloway, in light of recent developments and your outstanding academic contributions, I'd like to discuss your potential appointment as the new department chair of comparative literature, effective next semester. Are you available to meet Monday at 10 a.m.? Regards, Dean Palmer." Recent developments? My cursor hovered over the reply button while my brain raced through possibilities. Could the dean possibly know about Curtis and Esme? Was this some kind of pity promotion? I called Margot. "Did you tell Dean Palmer about Curtis?" I demanded when she answered. "Good morning to you too, sunshine," Margot replied, the sound of espresso machine hissing in the background. And no, I didn't. "Why?" I read her the email. "Holy tenure track Batman," she whispered. "Palmer never makes these offers via email. This is unprecedented. But why now? The timing is suspicious." Margot's laugh sounded like ice cubes clinking in a glass. "Pearl, you adorable academic. Don't you see what's happening? The university knows." "Knows what?" "Everything. Academia is basically a high school with PhDs and parking privileges. Curtis's affair with Esme isn't his first rodeo. And apparently Palmer's had enough. Curtis was being considered for dean of faculty next year. But this little Cancun catastrophe might have just promoted you instead of him." I sank into my office chair, staring at the framed photo of Curtis and me at his department Christmas party last year. His arm around my waist, both of us smiling like we had secrets only we shared. Turns out one of us definitely had secrets. "Are you saying the university is offering me a promotion because my husband cheated on me?" "I'm saying the university is finally recognizing your worth while simultaneously distancing themselves from a liability. Two birds, one tenured stone. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" What indeed? I clicked reply and scheduled the meeting with Dean Palmer. After hanging up with Margot, I did something I'd been avoiding. I checked Esme's Instagram. There they were, Curtis and Esme, not even trying to hide anymore. A photo of them on a yacht, captioned, "Business and pleasure with the brilliant Dr. Holloway. Academics at play." I zoomed in on Curtis's face, sunglasses perched on his nose, arm casually slung around Esme's tanned shoulders. He looked relaxed, happy, unrecognizable from the man who'd told me just last month that he didn't have time for a weekend getaway because he was too swamped with department obligations. But it wasn't Curtis who caught my attention in the photo. It was what was visible on the yacht's table, a stack of papers with the Whitman Foundation logo clearly visible. I enlarged the image, squinting at the document. It appeared to be a grant proposal, a massive one based on the thickness of the stack. Why would Curtis bring foundation documents to a romantic getaway? Unless... I called Diane. "I need information on Esme Wilcox. Professional background, specifically any connection to the Whitman Foundation." Diane didn't even ask why. This is why she charges $750 an hour. Give me an hour. While waiting, I turned to my computer and pulled up Curtis's academic profile. My darling husband had recently published a groundbreaking paper on the economic impact of cultural exchange programs in North American universities. A paper I had proofread, edited, and practically rewritten sections of because, as Curtis had complained, the methodology chapter was killing him. A quick Google search of Esme Wilcox plus Whitman Foundation stopped my heart for a second. Esme wasn't just some random neighbor. She was the newly appointed director of academic grants at the Whitman Foundation, the same foundation that was hosting the donor dinner, the same foundation that controlled millions in university funding. Curtis wasn't just having an affair. He was sleeping his way into a major grant. When Diane called back, she confirmed my suspicions and added a delicious twist. Esme Wilcox, 36, 3 divorces, all from academic types. Previously worked at the Mellon Foundation, where she was involved in a scandal involving favoritism in grant distributions. Quietly moved to the Whitman Foundation 6 months ago. But here's the interesting part. She's only been your neighbor for, 3 months? About that, I confirmed, remembering how Curtis had been unusually helpful when Esme moved in, offering to show her around the building, the neighborhood, apparently his pants. Well, according to my sources, she specifically requested that unit. She could have had a larger one on the 8th floor, but she wanted 7B, directly across from you. My blood turned to slush. She targeted us? Me? Or more likely, Curtis. The timing aligns perfectly with when the Whitman Foundation would have been reviewing grant applications for this cycle. I felt the floor shift beneath me. This wasn't just an affair. This was calculated, premeditated. This was Curtis selling our marriage for a grant, and Esme buying academic influence with my husband. The betrayal had just leveled up from personal to professional. Diane, I said, my voice suddenly calm, I need to update our strategy. I'm listening. We're not just going after Curtis's personal assets anymore. We're going after his professional reputation. I want the university, the foundation, everyone to know exactly what kind of academic collaboration he's been engaged in. That's risky, Pearl. Academic scandal could splash back on you. I glanced again at the email from Dean Palmer. I don't think so. I have reason to believe the university is already distancing themselves from Curtis. And now I know why. After finishing with Diane, I spent the rest of Friday compiling evidence. I downloaded every photo Esme had posted, took screenshots of all their interactions, retrieved email correspondences between Curtis and the foundation that had come to our home address, and gathered copies of the grant proposal drafts I'd helped him with. By evening, I had assembled a comprehensive dossier that showed, beyond any reasonable doubt, that Curtis had engaged in an inappropriate relationship to secure funding. But I wasn't done. If I was going to burn down Curtis's career castle, I needed to make sure I had somewhere fireproof to stand. I spent Saturday preparing for my meeting with Dean Palmer. I updated my CV, gathered student evaluations, consistently higher than Curtis's, though he always claimed it was because I was an easy grader, and compiled a list of my publications and speaking engagements. While organizing my materials, I found something I'd almost forgotten, a letter Curtis had asked me to mail months ago. It was addressed to Professor Abigail Montgomery at Princeton, a leading figure in Curtis's field. I'd forgotten to mail it, and Curtis never followed up. Curious, I carefully opened it. Inside was a letter declining Princeton's offer for Curtis to join their faculty as a distinguished chair of economic cultural studies, a position he'd never mentioned to me. A position in New Jersey, a move he knew I wouldn't want to make because of my ties to Northwestern and Chicago. He'd made that decision without even discussing it with me. I carefully resealed the letter and placed it in my growing file of Curtis's greatest betrayals. It wasn't as flashy as the affair, but somehow it cut deeper. He hadn't just been unfaithful with his body. He'd been unfaithful with our future. Sunday morning, as I was finalizing my presentation for Dean Palmer, my phone buzzed with a text from Curtis. Coming home tomorrow afternoon. Exhausted, but project was a success. Can't wait to see you. I smiled at my phone, the kind of smile crocodiles give before they drag their prey underwater. Can't wait to see you either, I replied. I've been busy too. So many surprises waiting for you. He sent back a heart emoji. I set my phone down and looked around our apartment. At the new locks he didn't have keys for, at the empty closet where his clothes used to hang, now neatly packed in boxes in the storage unit, at the printer still warm from printing divorce papers. "Oh, Curtis," I said to the empty room. "You have no idea what kind of construction project I've been working on." Monday morning arrived with the crisp certainty of academic deadlines. By 9:30 a.m., I was seated outside Dean Palmer's office, dressed in what I called my intellectual dominatrix outfit, a perfectly tailored black suit that suggested both compliance with academic standards and a willingness to punish those who violated them. Palmer's assistant, Vivian, gave me a sympathetic smile. "He's ready for you, Professor Holloway." I entered his office carrying both my professional portfolio and the Curtis dossier. The dean rose from behind his massive oak desk, a desk that had witnessed more academic casualties than a freshman philosophy class. "Pearl," he said warmly, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Thank you for coming." "Thank you for the opportunity, Dean Palmer." He adjusted his glasses, the universal signal that an administrator is about to broach an uncomfortable topic. "Before we discuss the chair position, I want to address the situation with your husband." I kept my face professionally neutral, the same expression I used when students tried to explain why their papers were late. "I appreciate your candor, Dean. I assume you're referring to his relationship with Esme Wilcox from the Whitman Foundation." Palmer's eyebrows shot up so fast they nearly flew off his forehead. "You're aware of the situation?" "Dean Palmer, I not only know about it, I have documented it extensively." I placed my Curtis dossier on his desk. "What you may not know is that this relationship coincided suspiciously with grant application reviews and appears to have been strategically initiated. For the next 15 minutes, I outlined everything: the affair, the grant connection, the Princeton position Curtis had declined without consulting me. Palmer's expression moved from shock to dismay to what I can only describe as administrative terror. "This is highly concerning," he said finally, "especially given the Whitman dinner this Thursday, where Curtis is scheduled to give the keynote," I added helpfully. Palmer rubbed his temples. "Pearl, I want to be clear. The chair position is being offered based entirely on your academic merits. Your publication record, teaching evaluations, and departmental contributions have been exceptional. This situation with Curtis is an unfortunate coincidence in timing." I smiled. "Of course, Dean. I would expect nothing less than merit-based decisions from Northwestern." By the time I left Palmer's office an hour later, I had accepted the position of department chair, effective immediately rather than next semester. Palmer had also agreed that I should present at the Whitman dinner instead of Curtis, to maintain the university's professional standards. As I walked across campus, my phone rang. It was Diane. "It's done," she said without preamble. "The Mexican attorney confirmed that as Curtis's spouse, you have equal claim to the Cancun property regardless of whose name is on the deed. And since you can prove the funds came from joint accounts, it strengthens your position considerably." "Excellent. And the other matter?" "The locks at the vacation house have been changed as requested. The property management company was quite understanding when I explained that the owner's wife was concerned about unauthorized access." I smiled. "Diane, you're worth every penny of that terrifying hourly rate. Coming from you, I'll take that as a compliment. How did the meeting with Palmer go?" "Let's just say Curtis is about to discover he's not the only Holloway who knows how to climb the academic ladder." By noon, I was back at our condo, arranging the final pieces of Curtis's homecoming surprise. The movers had already taken his clothes and personal items to the storage unit. The locksmith had installed the new smart lock system that would alert me when someone tried to enter. The divorce papers were artfully arranged on the dining table with a single purple geometric fabric swatch placed on top. A little artistic touch I thought added just the right amount of narrative cohesion. At 2:17 p.m., my phone buzzed. The smart lock app alerted me. Unknown key attempted entry. Then came a text from Curtis. "Did you change the locks? I can't get in." I was sitting in my new office on campus. Nameplate already changed to Dr. Pearl Holloway, department chair. I texted back, "Oh, that's strange. I had to upgrade our security system. The code is 0310. The date, March 10th, when Esme had first moved into our building." 3 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Curtis had entered the apartment. I imagined him walking into the unnaturally quiet space, noticing first the missing photos from the walls, then the empty spaces where his awards had been displayed. I pictured his confusion as he walked toward the bedroom, finding his closet empty, his precious ties gone. Then his phone rang, not with my call, but with Dean Palmer's. Meanwhile, I sat in my new office, watching the clock. At precisely 2:30 p.m., the department administrative assistant knocked on my door. "Dr. Holloway? Dean Palmer asked me to deliver this." She handed me a thick envelope. Inside was Curtis's official letter of administrative leave pending an ethics investigation, effective immediately. Also included was the revised program for the Whitman Foundation dinner, with my name replacing his as the keynote speaker. At 2:45 p.m., my phone exploded with texts from Curtis. "What the hell is happening? Palmer just put me on leave. Where are all my things? Are these divorce papers? Pearl, answer me." I took a deep, satisfied breath and responded with a single text. "Check your email. I sent you some photos I think you'll find interesting." The email I'd scheduled contained selected images from my dossier, Esme's social media posts showing them together, the grant documents visible, all neatly compiled with timestamps and explanatory captions. My personal favorite was a side-by-side comparison of Curtis wearing the same outfit in our vacation home with Esme, and at a construction site he'd sent me as proof of his whereabouts. My phone rang. Curtis, obviously. I declined the call and texted, "I'm in a meeting. As department chair, my schedule is quite full. If you'd like to schedule an appointment, please contact the department secretary." By 4 p.m., academic gossip, which travels faster than light in violation of all known physics, had spread throughout campus. My office door remained closed, but I could hear the whispers, the shocked conversations, the occasional burst of inappropriate laughter. At 5 p.m., as I was preparing to leave, Margot appeared in my doorway, a bottle of champagne in one hand and 2 glasses in the other. "Is it too soon to celebrate?" she asked. I gestured her in. "It's Northwestern. It's never too soon for alcohol with a pretentious pedigree." She poured while updating me on the aftermath. Curtis tried to enter the faculty lounge and Whitman himself was there. Yes, the Whitman, who apparently flew in early for the dinner. Curtis had no idea and started ranting about conspiracy and sabotage. Security had to escort him out. I accepted the champagne flute with the grace of someone who hadn't just orchestrated her husband's professional execution. How unfortunate. Unfortunate. It's Shakespeare meets academic karma. Margot clinked her glass against mine. To curtains that reveal rather than conceal. Just then, my phone buzzed with a notification. Esme had posted on Instagram, "Heading back to Chicago alone. Some partnerships aren't meant to last. Lessons learned." I showed Margot, who nearly choked on her champagne. She dumped him? After all this? Apparently, unethical professors with no job, no house keys, and pending divorce proceedings aren't as attractive as department chairs with grant influence. Margot's laugh echoed through my new office. "You know Curtis will try to explain, to justify everything." "Let him try," I said, sipping my champagne. "I've spent 12 years editing his work. I know all his weak arguments." As evening fell over Northwestern's campus, I walked to my car with the confidence of a woman who had not only survived betrayal, but had alchemized it into opportunity. Tomorrow, I would finalize the divorce paperwork. Wednesday, I would meet with the Whitman Foundation board to discuss future collaborations. Thursday, I would deliver a keynote speech at a dinner my husband had been planning for months. And somewhere in Cancun, a housekeeper was removing custom purple geometric curtains from a vacation home that would soon be listed for sale. The proceeds split according to the terms of a divorce agreement that Curtis would be too devastated to contest. As I drove home to my condo with new locks and old memories, I couldn't help but smile at how perfectly everything had unfolded. Some people teach literature, others live it. And sometimes, just sometimes, the most devastating plot twists happen to those who think they're writing the story. 6 months later, I sat in my expanded office, now with a window overlooking Lake Michigan, a perk of my recently approved promotion to full professor. On my desk sat a small purple fabric swatch framed in silver, a reminder of how quickly life can unravel and be rewoven into something unexpectedly better. The Whitman Foundation dinner had become academic legend. My keynote speech, titled "Transparency in Academic Partnerships," Building Ethical Foundations for Institutional Growth, was now required reading in the university's ethics course. The standing ovation I received lasted a full minute, though I suspect half of that time was fueled by the delicious awkwardness of the situation rather than my rhetorical brilliance. Curtis never showed his face on campus again. The ethics investigation concluded with a quiet resignation and academic censure. Last I heard, he was teaching introductory courses at a community college in Nevada, a state as far from academic prestige as it is from water. Esme Wilcox resigned from the Whitman Foundation 3 weeks after our return from Cancun. Apparently, this wasn't her first academic collaboration, just the first one that had spectacularly backfired. She sold her condo in our building and moved to Boston, presumably to find a new academic institution to infiltrate and new custom curtains to pose in front of. The divorce was finalized with surprising efficiency. Curtis contested nothing, signed everything, and disappeared from my life with the same stealthy selfishness with which he'd conducted his affairs. The Cancun property sold for a tidy profit, which I used to buy a lakefront cottage in Michigan where I now spend weekends writing my first non-academic book, The Literature of Betrayal, Cultural Narratives of Infidelity from Medea to Modern America. The irony is not lost on me. Dean Palmer retired last month, recommending me as his successor. The board is still deliberating, but the whispered consensus is that Pearl Holloway has become the unexpected phoenix of Northwestern's humanities department, the woman who turned personal catastrophe into professional ascendance, the professor who taught the most unforgettable lesson without ever entering a classroom. I often think about those purple geometric curtains. How something so innocuous, a decorative choice I had obsessed over for weeks, became the thread that unraveled my marriage, but knitted together a better life. If Curtis had simply closed them before taking that photo, would I still be living half a life? Would I still be editing his mediocre papers and managing his impressive ego? Would I still be the supporting character in my own story? Diane and I still meet monthly, though now it's for friendship rather than legal strategy. During our last lunch, she raised her glass and said, "To Curtis, the man too stupid to realize that when you marry the smartest person in the room, you shouldn't give them reason to destroy you." I couldn't argue with that logic. Margot became my closest ally during the transition, helping me navigate the treacherous waters of academic administration. "The difference between you and Curtis," she told me once over late-night grant proposals, "is that he saw relationships as transactions, while you see them as transformations." The Whitman Foundation, eager to distance itself from scandal, has become unusually generous with our department. Our latest grant, the one Curtis had been so desperate to secure, was approved with minimal revision. The foundation's new director, a brilliant woman with impeccable ethics and sensible taste in window treatments, has become a valued colleague. My mother called when the news of my promotion hit the alumni newsletter. "See?" she said, vindication dripping from her voice like expensive perfume. "What did I always tell you? Men are like mercury thermometers." "Yes, Mom," I replied. "Fun to keep around until they break and poison everything. And then you clean up the mess and buy a digital one," she finished triumphantly. As for me, I've learned a few lessons worth sharing. First, always go with custom window treatments. They're expensive, but the return on investment can be life-changing. Second, when your husband calls from a construction site in Mexico, ask for photos that include actual construction equipment rather than just his sunburned face against a generic wall. Third, academia rewards those who publish revelations, whether they're in peer-reviewed journals or the court of public opinion. And finally, the best revenge isn't just success, it's success that forces your ex to explain to everyone why you're succeeding without him. I haven't dated since the divorce. There's been interest. Apparently, female department chairs with lakefront cottages and publishing contracts are quite attractive to a certain type of academic man. But I'm enjoying the silence of my own company. The absence of someone else's ego taking up all the oxygen in the room is remarkably refreshing. Sometimes people ask if I'm bitter about what happened. I tell them the truth. I'm grateful. Grateful that Curtis was arrogant enough to think I wouldn't notice. Grateful that Esme was vain enough to post the evidence. Grateful that my professional value was recognized when my personal value was dismissed. Most of all, I'm grateful for the lesson I now teach to every female graduate student who enters my department. Your education isn't just what you learn in books. It's what you learn about yourself when the narrative you thought you were living suddenly shifts genres. As for Curtis, I hear the community college where he teaches doesn't have a window in his basement office. No need for curtains at all. Turns out, the best home security system isn't from ADT. It's watching your husband have a complete meltdown when he finds one camera and realizes there might be 23 more. Spoiler alert, there were only 18. But why ruin his panic with accuracy? I'm Marin, and let me paint you a picture. Tuesday morning, October 7th, I'm sitting in the Starbucks on Route 59, because where else does a suburban wife go to watch her marriage implode? Sipping a venti caramel macchiato that cost more than my therapist's copay. Which is ironic, because this coffee is doing more for my mental health than 6 months of, and how does that make you feel, ever did. My divorce attorney, Patricia Landry, a woman who charges $450 an hour and is worth every penny, unlike my husband, sits across from me, occasionally glancing at my screen and making notes on her legal pad with the kind of satisfied smile that says she's already calculating her boat upgrade. On my phone, my husband Royce is tearing through our 4-bedroom suburban palace in Naperville like he's auditioning for a remake of The Fugitive. He's ripping paintings off walls, checking behind curtains, even, and this is my personal favorite, shaking that ridiculous regional sales champion trophy he won 3 years ago and insisted on displaying like it was the Stanley Cup, because nothing says I'm a winner quite like a participation trophy for selling logistics services and a side-piece collection. Marin! He's screaming at absolutely nobody because I'm 3 miles away drinking overpriced coffee and living my best life. How long have these been here? What did you see? Everything, baby. I saw everything. And let me tell you, the production value was terrible. Zero chemistry, terrible dialogue, would not recommend. But let's back up, because this hot mess didn't start with hidden cameras and public humiliation. It started way more boring than that, with a lingerie receipt in a pants pocket on a random Monday in late August. Because apparently, my husband's idea of covering his tracks was about as effective as his performance reviews. I'm a stay-at-home mom. Well, I was. Now I'm more of a strategic domestic engineer turned amateur surveillance specialist, but we'll get to that. For 12 years, I did the whole suburban dream thing. Soccer mom carpool, PTA meetings where Karen from Elmhurst always has opinions about the fundraiser, meal prep on Sundays, and pretending to care about which other families made it into the country club. You know, living the dream. The American Dream TM. Brought to you by Denial and Wine O'Clock. We lived in one of those gated communities where everyone's lawn looks like it's been individually manicured by tiny perfectionists with scissors, and the biggest scandal is usually someone's Ring doorbell catching teenagers toilet papering houses on Halloween. Plot twist, my Ring doorbell caught something way more interesting than teenagers. It caught a middle-aged man speed-running his midlife crisis. Royce and I got married youngish. I was 26, he was 29. And popped out 2 kids in quick succession because that's what you do when you're in love and stupid. Tessa's 10 now, all attitude and eye rolls, training to be a professional preteen. Cleo's 7, still believes in Santa, and thinks I'm the coolest person alive. At least someone does. 1 out of 3 ain't bad. Royce worked in logistics, regional manager. Big title, decent salary, company car, the whole suburban dad starter pack. He traveled sometimes, or so he said, but mostly worked late at the office. And by late, I mean 3, sometimes 4 nights a week he'd roll in around 11:30, smelling like cologne I didn't buy him, and excuses I stopped believing months ago. The man had more supply chain emergencies than FedEx during the holiday season. I'm pretty sure at one point, he forgot what industry he was even in. Sorry, babe. Had to handle a critical shipment situation. Sir, you manage regional accounts from a desk. The only thing you're shipping is lies. I'm not stupid. Well, okay. Maybe I was stupid for 12 years. But there's a difference between being trusting and being blind. And somewhere around June, I crossed that line hard enough to leave skid marks. Little things started adding up. New gym membership he never used. Shocking. Suddenly caring about skincare like he was auditioning for a Neutrogena commercial, buying clothes without me, and, the kicker, password protecting his phone after a decade of leaving it on the kitchen counter like it was community property. But I'm a good suburban wife. I smiled. I packed his lunches with those little notes that say, "Have a great day," while internally screaming. I played the part. Meanwhile, I was doing mental calculus that would make a NASA engineer proud, trying to figure out what was happening in my own house. Turns out, a lot. A lot, a lot. Then came the receipt. Monday, August 25th. I'm doing laundry, because apparently my college degree in marketing from Northwestern prepared me perfectly for sorting darks from lights and checking pockets for evidence of infidelity. They really should add that to the curriculum. Marketing 401, detecting bullshit in domestic settings. I checked the pockets before throwing his work pants in the washer. Pro tip, always check pockets. You'll either find money or evidence. This time, evidence that would make a prosecutor weep with joy. La Perla. You know, that lingerie brand where a single bra costs more than my monthly grocery budget and makes Victoria's Secret look like a dollar store. Receipt dated August 23rd. Saturday. The Saturday he said he was at the office catching up on quarterly reports. Right. Because nothing says quarterly reports like a lingerie boutique in Oak Brook. Item, black lace teddy. Size XS. I'm a size medium on a good day. Large if I've been stress-eating Girl Scout cookies, which I had been, because something about your marriage falling apart makes thin mints taste like therapy. XS is code for definitely not your wife. XS is what you buy for someone who survives on kale smoothies and delusion. I stood there in my laundry room, the same laundry room where I'd folded this man's underwear for over a decade, the same laundry room where I'd scrubbed out stains I didn't want to think about, holding a receipt for lingerie I'd never seen, in a size I'd never wear, purchased on a day he'd lied about. And I thought, so this is what rock bottom looks like. Unfinished basement, fluorescent lighting, and the faint smell of Tide Pods mixed with betrayal. Most women would have confronted their husband right there. Tears, accusations, thrown dishes, the whole daytime TV special. Not me. I'm strategic. My dad used to say, "Marin, you're the kind of person who'd plan a picnic during a hurricane and somehow make it work." He meant it as a compliment. Turns out, it also applies to revenge. So I made a plan. A beautiful, terrible, legally sound plan. September 1st, Labor Day, which felt cosmically appropriate for the amount of work I was about to put in, I drove to Best Buy with Cleo. Told her we were getting supplies for her school project. Technically true. The school project was How Daddy Destroyed Our Family, a multimedia presentation. She got an A. Just kidding. She doesn't know yet. But when she does, easy A. I bought 18 mini wireless cameras, the kind that connect to your phone, have night vision, motion detection, and are small enough to hide literally anywhere. God bless America and their tech section. This is why we won the Cold War. The pimply teenager working the tech section tried to upsell me on the 19-camera bundle. "You get one free," he said, gesturing at a display like he was offering me the deal of a lifetime. "Trust me," I told him, loading my cart like I was preparing for the apocalypse. 18 is plenty for what I'm planning. He looked confused, probably thought I was paranoid about burglars. Sweet summer child. The call was coming from inside the house. I didn't elaborate. Some things suburban moms don't explain to teenagers at Best Buy, like how I was about to turn my home into the world's most depressing reality show. Over the next week, I installed those cameras like I was preparing for a home invasion, which, in a way, I was, just from the inside. Behind the living room painting of the Chicago skyline Royce's mother gave us as a wedding present. Ironic, since she's about to hate me. Inside the decorative vase in the kitchen that held fake flowers because I killed real ones. Much like Royce was killing our marriage. On the bookshelf in his home office, tucked behind the business books he bought to look smart but never read, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Guess infidelity wasn't one of them. In the master bedroom, camouflaged in the smoke detector, because if anything was on fire, it was this marriage. even inside the mouth of that stupid trophy. Regional sales champion. Champion of what exactly? Adultery? Every room, every angle, every corner of our supposedly happy home. I became a surveillance expert. NSA would have been impressed. Then I waited, and watched, and collected footage that would make a reality TV producer weep with joy and quit their job out of jealousy because they could never script something this good. 3 weeks of footage. 21 days of my husband turning our home into his personal bachelor pad while I played chauffeur to dance classes and helped with homework. You know, living the dream. The nightmare dream. The American nightmare TM. The first week, I almost convinced myself I was paranoid. Maybe the receipt was a gift for me he hadn't given yet. Maybe his late nights really were work emergencies. Maybe I was just a suspicious wife with too much time and a Best Buy credit card burning a hole in my purse. Maybe pigs could fly, and my mother-in-law would finally admit I make a decent pot roast. Then Tuesday, September 9th happened, and reality hit me like a Target shopping cart pushed by an angry toddler. I was at Target, because where else would a suburban mom be at 2 in the afternoon? Living the high life, comparing Greek yogurt brands like it was a life-or-death decision. Chobani or Phage? The eternal question. Certainly more important than my crumbling marriage, right? My phone buzzed, motion detected in the living room. I clicked the notification, expecting to see our cat, Mr. Whiskers, knocking something over like the tiny anarchist he is. Instead, I saw my husband. At 2:15 on a Tuesday, when he was supposed to be in a critical meeting with the distribution center in Rockford. Rockford. That's 2 hours away. Yet there he was, in our living room, approximately 0 hours away from making the worst decision of his life. He wasn't alone. The woman with him was blonde, petite, definitely XS lingerie size called it, and wearing yoga pants so tight they looked painted on. You know the type. Looks like she drinks green juice for breakfast and calls it self-care while ruining other people's lives. Namaste, homewrecker. They were on my couch. My cream-colored couch from Pottery Barn that I specifically chose because it was family-friendly and stain-resistant. Well, it was about to get tested in ways the manufacturer definitely didn't intend. I should write them a review. Great for kids and infidelity. 5 stars. I stood there in the yogurt aisle, watching my marriage disintegrate in real time on a 5-inch screen. And here's the thing nobody tells you about catching your spouse cheating. Your first thought isn't sadness. It's not even anger. It's pure, unfiltered logistics. Did he seriously bring her to our house? Where our children sleep? Where we have family photos on every wall? Is he trying to get caught, or is he just that stupid? Spoiler. He was that stupid. A woman pushing a cart past me said, "Excuse me, hun, you're blocking the Chobani." Of course I was blocking the Chobani. My entire life was blocking the Chobani. Sorry, I mumbled, moving aside like a well-trained suburban zombie. I bought the yogurt. Greek. Phage. 0% fat, because apparently I was trying to be healthy while my life fell apart. Drove home in a daze, mentally calculating how much this divorce was going to cost him. Spoiler alert, a lot. When Royce came home that night at 11:45, new record, someone give this man a medal for creative time management. I was in bed, pretending to sleep, iPad hidden under my pillow, still watching footage from earlier, just replaying the hits, really marinating in the betrayal. "Hey babe," he whispered, kissing my forehead like he was husband of the year. "Sorry I'm late. Supply chain nightmare. The audacity. The audacity. The sheer, unmitigated, weaponized audacity of this man. Sir, the only supply chain nightmare here is you supplying lies and I'm the one having nightmares." I mumbled something incoherent and turned over. He showered, washing off evidence, how thoughtful, really considerate, and climbed into bed like he hadn't spent the afternoon violating every wedding vow we'd made at that overpriced venue in Oak Brook that cost more than a small car. But it got worse. So much worse. Because apparently, my husband wasn't just a cheater, he was an overachiever. September 18th, Thursday. I'm at Tessa's parent-teacher conference, where her teacher, Mrs. Morrison tells me my daughter is academically gifted but socially challenging, which is teacher code for, your kid's smart but kind of mean to other kids. Wonder where she gets that from. Definitely not from her father, who's winning awards in meanness. Another notification hits my phone. Living room. Motion detected. 4:30 p.m. I excused myself, claimed I needed to take an urgent call. Which was true. Just not the kind of call Mrs. Morrison was imagining, and stepped into the school hallway that smelled like floor wax and crushed dreams. Pulled up the camera feed. Royce again. Punctual guy. Really committed to his schedule. But different woman this time. This one I recognized immediately. Dark hair, expensive highlights that probably cost more than my grocery budget. That superior smirk I'd seen across countless family dinners. Simone, my sister-in-law, married to Royce's brother Marcus for 8 years. Mother of 2 boys, Theo and Liam. PTA president. Volunteers at the church food drive. Has a live, laugh, love sign in her kitchen and quotes Bible verses on Facebook like she's auditioning for a Christian lifestyle brand. Turns out, the only thing she loves more than Jesus is my husband. And the only scripture she follows is, "Thou shalt covet thy brother-in-law." They were drinking wine. My wine. The good bottle of Pinot Noir I'd been saving from our Napa trip 2 years ago. The trip where Royce complained the entire time about the cost. $400 for wine, Marin? Really? Yes, Royce. Really. And now you're drinking it with your brother's wife. Hope it tastes like betrayal and regret. I watched Simone laugh at something Royce said, touch his arm, lean in closer. The intimate body language of 2 people who'd done this before. Many times before. They had a whole routine. Probably had inside jokes. Maybe even a song. My brain did that thing where it catalogs everything at once. Every family barbecue where she'd hugged me and called me sister. Every Christmas where we'd exchanged gifts. She got me a candle last year. Blessed, it said. How appropriate. Every time she'd said, "We're so lucky to have you in the family." With that smile that I'd thought was genuine, but now realized was probably just smug superiority. The woman who told me last Thanksgiving that marriage is sacred was apparently treating sacred like a suggestion, not a commandment. More like a guideline. A loose framework. Marriage is sacred until it's inconvenient, I guess. Mrs. Morrison poked her head into the hallway. "Mrs. Thibault, everything okay?" "Just perfect," I said, sliding my phone into my purse with the calm of someone who'd just witnessed a car crash in slow motion. My husband's having an affair with his brother's wife in our living room, and my 10-year-old apparently needs to work on her empathy skills. So, typical Thursday, really hitting all the suburban mom bingo squares today. Her face went pale. What? Nothing. Sorry. Yes, I'll talk to Tessa about being nicer to the other students. Empathy. Got it. Ironic, really, since her father has the empathy of a parking meter. Can I get that reading list you mentioned? I got the reading list. Drove home. Made dinner. Tacos, because I was on autopilot and tacos are easy. Helped Cleo with her math homework. Fractions, which felt metaphorically appropriate given how my life was being divided into before and after. Put both girls to bed with stories about princesses and happy endings, which felt like cruel jokes the universe was playing on me. Poured myself a glass of wine. Different bottle, obviously, since Simone and Royce had finished the good stuff. And watched 3 more hours of footage from various cameras. It was like binge-watching the worst show on Netflix. Except it was my life, and I couldn't cancel the subscription. The pattern became clear. Blonde yoga pants woman. Tuesdays and Thursdays, afternoon sessions, usually left by 4. Very punctual. Professional mistress behavior. Simone. Wednesdays and some Fridays, stayed later. More comfortable. Clearly a longer-term arrangement. Probably had a key at this point. My husband was running a rotation schedule like he was managing his sales territory. Color-coded his affairs. Probably had them in his Outlook calendar with little reminder alerts. Tuesday, 2 p.m., quarterly review, translation, blonde woman. Wednesday, 3 p.m., strategic planning, translation, your sister-in-law. Friday, 5 p.m., team building, translation, whoever was available. The man who couldn't remember our anniversary was somehow managing a multi-affair operation with the efficiency of a Fortune 500 company. Incredible. Give this man a TED Talk. I started recognizing details that made everything worse. Simone used our master bathroom. I could see her coming out of it, fixing her lipstick in my mirror. The audacity. Blonde woman always left through the back door, like she was sneaking out of a heist movie. Very cloak and dagger. Very, I'm definitely not ruining a family right now. Royce would spray air freshener after they left, light the vanilla candle I kept on the mantle, erase the evidence like he was dismantling a crime scene. CSI. Suburban Betrayal. Coming this fall to CBS. The kicker? Friday, September 26th. I'm loading the dishwasher after dinner. Royce is working late again. What a shock. Someone alert the media. When Tessa asks, "Mom, why does Dad's friend keep coming over?" My hand froze on a plate. Time stopped. The universe paused. What friend, sweetie? The blonde lady. I saw her leaving when you picked me up from Emma's house last week. She was coming out of our driveway, looked nervous, walked really fast. Cleo piped up from the table, where she was coloring what appeared to be a very angry princess. Daddy said she was a work colleague. He said not to mention it because you get stressed about his work stuff. Oh. So now we're coaching the children. Fantastic. Father of the year, everyone. Really setting a great example. I smiled. The same smile I'd perfected over 12 years of suburban domesticity. The smile that says, everything's fine, when everything is absolutely, categorically, spectacularly on fire. That's nice of Daddy to not want to stress me out, I said, my voice steady enough to win an Oscar. You're right. Work stuff is boring. Hey, who wants ice cream? Both girls cheered. Crisis averted. Meanwhile, I was mentally calculating exactly how much child support and alimony I could squeeze out of this train wreck. Turns out, Illinois has great laws about infidelity. Who knew? That night, after the girls were asleep, I sat in the dark living room, the same room where I'd watched weeks of betrayal unfold like a really bad reality show, and made a list on my phone. Evidence collected, check. Emotionally prepared for nuclear option, check. Divorce attorney researched and contacted, check. Petty revenge plan that would destroy him socially, financially, and emotionally, in progress. Patricia Landry came highly recommended. She's a shark, my friend Jennifer told me over mimosas. Took her ex for everything except his kidneys, and I think she tried. Perfect. That's exactly what I needed. A shark, with legal credentials, 3 consultations, 1 retainer payment that made my eye twitch, and several very productive conversations later, I had a strategy, but I needed one more thing. Timing. Because revenge is a dish best served with perfect timing and a side of public humiliation, I needed Royce to find 1 camera. Just 1. Because watching a cheater discover he's been caught is good. Watching a cheater discover he's been caught but not knowing the full extent of his exposure? That's art. That's poetry. That's justice with a bow on top. So I waited. Adjusted 1 camera to make it slightly more visible. Just a tiny red light, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. But he'd be looking for it. And Tuesday, October 7th, I made sure he'd be looking for it. I texted him at noon. Coming home early today. Need to talk about something important. Then I drove to Starbucks, met Patricia, ordered my overpriced coffee that was cheaper than therapy and more effective, opened the app on my phone, and watched the show begin. Best $12 I ever spent. Watching Royce panic was better than anything Netflix could offer, better than any true crime documentary, better than reality TV. This was premium content, and I had front row seats. He found the camera at 2:47 p.m. I know the exact time because I was watching the timestamp on my phone while Patricia reviewed her notes about asset division and custody arrangements. She had color-coded tabs. I loved her. Simone had just left. Wednesday schedule, right on time, very professional. And Royce was doing his usual cleanup routine. Spraying Febreze like he worked for their marketing department. Fluffing couch pillows with the dedication of a hotel housekeeper. Checking for evidence like he was dismantling a crime scene. Really thorough. If only he put this much effort into our marriage. He walked past our wedding photo on the mantel, the one where we both looked young and stupid and in love, emphasis on stupid, and that's when he saw it, the tiny red blinking light behind the frame. His face went through 5 stages of grief in under 10 seconds. Confusion, recognition, panic, terror, and finally, my personal favorite, complete psychological breakdown. It was like watching a time-lapse of a man realizing his entire life is about to implode. Beautiful. Poetic. Chef's kiss. No. No, 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 no. He grabbed the frame, yanked it off the wall like it personally offended him, and there it was. Camera number 7, in all its wireless glory, staring back at him like a tiny electronic judge and jury. He dropped the frame. Glass shattered everywhere. Very dramatic. Very soap opera. I half expected a commercial break. Then he did exactly what I predicted he'd do, because cheaters are nothing if not predictable. He started searching for more. "Marin!" he screamed at the empty house like I was hiding in a closet waiting to jump out. "How long have these been here?" I took a sip of my macchiato, savored it. This moment deserved to be appreciated. Patricia glanced at my screen and raised an eyebrow in what I can only describe as professional admiration mixed with mild concern. "He's spiraling," she observed, making another note with her expensive pen. "Probably cost more than the cameras. This helps us. Consciousness of guilt. Keep recording." Oh, I was recording. All 18 cameras were recording. The beautiful thing about a panicked cheater is they forget to be smart. Not that Royce was ever particularly smart, but panic really brings out the worst in people. Or the best, depending on your perspective. Royce was tearing through the house like a man possessed, finding cameras I'd planted like the world's worst Easter eggs. Except instead of candy, he was finding evidence of his own terrible life choices. Kitchen vase. Found it. Looked personally betrayed by a fake flower arrangement. Bookshelf in his office. Found it. Knocked over 3 books he'd never read. The irony. Bedroom smoke detector. Found it. Had to get a chair to reach it. Very dedicated. Each discovery made him more frantic. By the time he found the one in his trophy, had to shake it really hard, almost broke it. Would have been poetic if it shattered. He was genuinely hyperventilating. Like, medical emergency level breathing. Should I call 911? Nah. "What did you see?" he shouted at camera number 12, which was still recording from the living room corner, capturing his complete meltdown in beautiful high definition. "Marin, if you're watching this," I laughed. Couldn't help it. Patricia gave me a look that said, "Professional composure, please," but even she was fighting a smile. Her lips were doing that thing where you're trying really hard not to laugh, but your face is betraying you. My phone buzzed. Text from Royce. "Where are you? We need to talk. Now." The entitlement. Even while panicking, still trying to give orders. "Sir, you lost ordering privileges approximately 3 affairs ago." I typed back, "At Starbucks. Why? Everything okay?" 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. The dots of a man trying to figure out how to dig himself out of a hole when he's already hit bedrock. Finally, "Come home. Please. Give me an hour," I replied. Traffic. There was no traffic. I was 8 minutes away. But I wanted him to marinate in his panic for a while longer. Let him find a few more cameras. Let him wonder exactly how much footage I had. Let him sweat. Literally. The man was sweating through his shirt. You could see it on camera. Gorgeous. Patricia closed her folder with the satisfaction of someone who knows they're about to win big. "You're enjoying this too much. Is that legally problematic?" "No. Just observing. Professionally." She paused. "Off the record? This is the most organized evidence collection I've seen in 15 years of divorce law. You could teach a class. Surveillance 101. When your husband's a walking red flag." "I'd take that class," she said, and I believed her. She pulled out another document, because this woman came prepared like she was going to war. "So we've established adultery with evidence. The fact that one party is his brother's wife adds complexity to the family dynamics but strengthens your position. Illinois is a no-fault divorce state, but this level of betrayal, especially the sister-in-law situation, Plays well if we need it for custody or asset division. Judges are human. They have feelings about this kind of thing. I want the house, I said, non-negotiable, and primary custody. He can have supervised visitation until the girls are old enough to decide for themselves, which, based on Tessa's personality, will be immediately, and she'll choose me. The cameras are legal, Patricia continued, like she was checking boxes on a winning lottery ticket. Illinois is a one-party consent state for recording in your own home. You own the house jointly, you had reasonable suspicion of infidelity, and you didn't record audio in areas with expectation of privacy like bathrooms. We're solid. Fort Knox solid. I was very careful about that, I said, because I'm petty, not a pervert. There's a line. No bathroom cameras. I have standards. She smiled. Actually smiled. Patricia Landry, destroyer of bad husbands, smiled at me. I like you, Marin. Most of my clients are either too emotional or too vindictive. You're strategic. That's refreshing. You're like a chess player who's been planning this checkmate for weeks. 12 years of managing a household and 2 kids, I said. You learn to plan ahead. Also, I'm really good at Tetris. Same skill set. My phone buzzed again. Royce, please come home. I can explain everything. I showed Patricia the text. She photographed it with her phone faster than a tourist at the Grand Canyon. Evidence of admission. Keep him talking. Don't engage emotionally. Let him dig his own grave. Oh, I'm going to hand him the shovel, I said, and maybe a headstone. Pre-engraved. Here lies Royce Thibault. He chose poorly. But here's where things got interesting. While I was watching Royce destroy our living room looking for cameras like he was on a deranged scavenger hunt, another notification popped up. Email. From Marcus. Subject line. We need to talk about Simone. I opened it, read it twice. Looked at Patricia like I'd just won the lottery and found out there was a second lottery. My brother-in-law knows, I said quietly. The email was short and devastating. Marin, can we meet somewhere private? Not our houses. I found something on Simone's phone. I think our spouses are having an affair. I need to know if you've noticed anything. Timestamp. Sent 20 minutes ago. Well, Patricia said, leaning back in her chair with the expression of someone watching a plot twist in a really good movie. That's a development. That's a whole development. I typed back immediately, because opportunity was knocking, and I was opening that door with enthusiasm. Woodridge Public Library. Meeting room B, 30 minutes. Come alone. His response was instant. I'll be there. I looked at Patricia. Change of plans. I need to coordinate with Marcus before confronting Royce. If we're both going nuclear on them, we should do it together. Maximum damage. Synchronized destruction. Smart, she agreed, nodding like a proud teacher. Unified front. Twice the damage. Double the humiliation. I'll come with you. Witness to the conversation in case we need it later. Also, I want to see this. 25 minutes later, I was sitting in a library meeting room that smelled like old books and broken marriages, my new favorite scent. Watching Marcus walk through the door. He looked terrible, like he'd been crying, like his world had just imploded, like he'd found out his wife was sleeping with his brother. Which, fair, because he had. Welcome to the club, Marcus. Membership fees are steep, but the revenge is worth it. Marin, he said, sitting down heavily like gravity had personally betrayed him. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to believe it, but I have video evidence, I interrupted, because we didn't have time for slow revelations. Multiple encounters. In my house. Dating back 3 weeks of confirmed footage. Possibly months before that. His face crumpled like a paper bag. How long have you known? I suspected for months. Confirmed it September 1st. I've been collecting evidence since then. 18 cameras. Every room except the bathrooms because I have boundaries. He pulled out his phone, hands shaking like he had hypothermia, and showed me screenshots. Text messages between Simone and Royce. Explicit. Detailed. Planning their next meeting. Complaining about their respective spouses like we were the problem. Discussing how boring and clueless Marcus and I were. Oh, we're boring. We're boring. The audacity. The sheer audacity. She called me boring, Marcus said. voice breaking like he was narrating the saddest documentary ever made. Said I was adequate but uninspiring in bed. They were laughing about us, making jokes. I was a punchline in my own marriage. I felt something shift in my chest. Not sadness anymore. Not even anger. Just cold, calculated fury. The kind of fury that plans things. Methodical fury. Spreadsheet fury. How do you want to handle this? I asked. He looked up, confused. What do you mean? I mean, we can do this separately. 2 divorces, 2 scandals, family torn apart gradually. Slow burn. Or we can coordinate. Make it count. Make sure everyone knows exactly what they did. Scorched earth. Full nuclear option. I'm talking Hiroshima levels of devastation. Patricia cleared her throat delicately. I should mention that coordinating revenge isn't technically legal advice I can give. Then stop giving advice and start taking notes, I said. Marcus straightened up. Something changed in his expression. The sadness shifted into something harder. Something with edges. What are you thinking? Family dinner, I said slowly, the plan forming as I spoke, like I was channeling some ancient god of petty revenge. This Sunday. Your parents' house. The whole family comes to Sunday dinner there once a month, right? This Sunday is the monthly dinner, Marcus confirmed, and I could see the realization dawning on his face. Mom's already planning the menu, probably making that pot roast I pretend to like. Perfect. We go, we act normal, we smile, we eat pot roast. Then during dessert we play a little home video. Greatest hits compilation from my security footage. Just the highlights. Let everyone see what Royce and Simone have been doing while we've been playing Happy Family. In front of the whole family? Marcus looked shocked, then thoughtful. Then slowly, deliberately, his face transformed into something resembling a smile. A scary smile. A smile with teeth. Mom will lose her mind. She'll absolutely lose her mind. Your mother has spent 12 years telling me I'm not good enough for her precious son, I said. And years of passive-aggressive Thanksgiving dinners fueled my next words. I'm not elegant enough, not sophisticated enough, not worthy of the Thibault name. Meanwhile, her precious son has been running a cheating operation out of our house with his own brother's wife. I think Lorraine needs a reality check. A big one. With visual aids. Patricia was typing on her phone. I'm not hearing this conversation. Legally, I'm not here. But hypothetically, if someone were to publicly expose infidelity at a family gathering, it wouldn't affect divorce proceedings negatively. Just making that observation. From a purely theoretical standpoint. Sunday is 4 days away, Marcus said, and I could see him getting on board with this plan in real time. Can you edit the footage by then? I can have it ready by tomorrow, I said, because I'm nothing if not efficient. With timestamps, locations, and a very tasteful soundtrack. Nothing explicit, obviously, just enough to make the point crystal clear. Think Ken Burns' documentary, but about betrayal. I'll bring the projector, Marcus said, and we shook hands like we were signing a treaty. Tell them I want to show family photos. Mom loves that stuff. She'll cry. She always cries at family photos. She'll cry at these too, I said. Different reasons. An alliance formed in a library meeting room between 2 betrayed spouses who were done being the punchline of someone else's joke. This was poetic. This was beautiful. This was going to be spectacular. Patricia stood up, gathering her things. I'm going to pretend this meeting was about custody arrangements. Carry on with your completely legal and not at all coordinated plan that I definitely didn't hear. I drove home. Royce's car was in the driveway. He was sitting on the front steps, head in his hands, looking like his life was ending. It was. I parked, grabbed my purse, and walked up the driveway with the calm confidence of someone who held all the cards, knew exactly how to play them, and was about to win the whole game. Hi, honey, I said cheerfully, like I'd just come back from a normal afternoon of errands. You wanted to talk? Royce looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes, and for a split second, I almost felt bad for him. Almost. Then I remembered the excess lingerie receipt and the feeling passed. Funny how that works. Marin, he started, voice all wobbly and pathetic. Save it, I said, walking past him into the house like he was a piece of lawn furniture I barely noticed. We'll talk inside. The neighbors don't need a show. Yet. The show was coming Sunday. But he didn't need to know that. Anticipation makes everything better. He followed me into the kitchen like a kicked puppy. A puppy who'd been cheating on his puppy wife with 2 other puppies. Actually, that metaphor got weird. Moving on. I set my purse on the counter, poured myself a glass of water, staying hydrated during emotional warfare is important, and turned to face him with the calm demeanor of someone who'd spent 3 weeks preparing for this exact moment. I was ready. I was Meryl Streep. I was Daniel Day-Lewis. I was acting. "How many cameras are there?" he asked, voice hoarse from all that earlier screaming. "Does it matter?" "Marin, please, I can explain." "Explain what, exactly?" I tilted my head like I was genuinely curious. "Which part needs explaining? The part where you've been cheating on me for months? The part where you brought them to our house? Where our daughters live and sleep and eat breakfast? Or the part where one of them is your brother's wife? I'm just trying to understand which piece of this dumpster fire you think has a reasonable explanation." He flinched like I'd slapped him. "Good. Emotional damage. You know about Simone." "I know about everything, Royce. That's what cameras do. They record things. It's literally their entire job description, and they're very good at it. Unlike some people's commitment to monogamy. It's not what you think?" "Really?" I laughed. Actually laughed. "Because I think you've been running a rotating schedule of affairs like you're managing a sales territory. Tuesdays and Thursdays with the blonde whose name I don't even know. Wednesdays and Fridays with your sister-in-law. That about right? Am I close? Do I win a prize for accuracy?" His face went gray. Like, actual gray. The color of sidewalk concrete. "How long have you been watching?" "Long enough." I took a sip of water. "Hydration. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to move into the guest room tonight. Tomorrow, you're going to sign whatever papers my attorney sends over. You're not going to fight me on the house, on custody, or on anything else. Because if you do, every second of that footage goes to your boss, your clients, and anyone else I can think of. LinkedIn, Facebook, maybe I'll start a YouTube channel. Cheaters Gone Wild Suburban Edition. I bet it would go viral. Understand?" He nodded slowly. "Defeated. Broken. Beautiful. What about Simone? What about her? Are you going to tell Marcus?" I smiled. Let him wonder. Let him stew. "We'll see how Sunday goes." "Sunday? Family dinner?" He looked confused, which was his natural state apparently. "Why would you want to?" "Because we're going to keep up appearances until I'm ready to stop," I said sweetly. "And you're going to smile and play the devoted husband. Because if you don't, I'll send every second of that footage to your boss, your entire office, and I'll CC the CEO for good measure. That company card you used for hotel rooms? Yeah, I have those receipts too. Literal receipts. I'm very thorough. Understand?" He understood. The next 3 days were the most surreal of my life. Royce moved into the guest room, telling Tessa and Cleo he had a cold and didn't want to get me sick. The girls bought it completely, because children are trusting and innocent and don't yet understand that adults are capable of weaponized lying. Meanwhile, I spent every free moment editing security footage into a 12-minute video that would make Martin Scorsese jealous. I added timestamps, locations, a soundtrack, nothing too on the nose, just some instrumental music that said, "Your life is about to end," without being obvious about it. Marcus and I texted constantly, coordinating our plan like we were planning D-Day, which, in a way, we were. D-Day for destruction. He confirmed the projector, I confirmed the video. We agreed on timing, right after dessert, when everyone was comfortable and trapped by social obligation and too much food to move quickly. Friday afternoon, Patricia reviewed the video in her office, watching it on her laptop with the intensity of a film critic at Cannes. "It's perfect," she said, though she looked slightly concerned, like a parent watching their child do something technically legal but definitely inadvisable. "You're sure you want to do this publicly? It'll be nuclear. Hiroshima, Chernobyl, choose your disaster metaphor. That's the point. Your in-laws will never forgive you." "They never liked me anyway," I said, shrugging. "At least now they'll have a valid reason instead of just, 'she's not good enough for our son.'" Now it'll be she publicly humiliated our son. Much more specific. I prefer specificity. She closed her laptop. Well, you've covered your legal bases. The footage is admissible in divorce proceedings. Illinois allows fault-based elements to be considered in asset division, even though it's technically no fault. This level of betrayal, especially involving family, will play in your favor. Judges hate this kind of thing. Music to my ears. Better than Beethoven. Sunday arrived. Perfect autumn day, crisp October air, leaves turning golden like the universe was setting the scene for maximum dramatic impact. The kind of day that belongs in a Hallmark movie. Not a family implosion. But here we were. Royce and I drove separately. I insisted, claiming I had errands after. Really, I just couldn't stand being in a car with him. The girls rode with me, chattering about school and friends, completely oblivious to the fact that their family was about to implode in approximately 2 hours. Ignorance is bliss. Enjoy it while it lasts, girls. His parents lived in Wheaton, in one of those old Victorian houses that screamed generational wealth and judgment. His mother, Lorraine, never Mom, always Lorraine, because God forbid we be informal, answered the door wearing pearls and disappointment. Her usual outfit. "Marin," she said, voice cool enough to refrigerate food. "You're late." "Traffic," I lied smoothly. We were 3 minutes late. 3 minutes. Where should I put this pie? I'd brought apple pie from Costco. Store-bought. I knew it would irritate her. Small victories matter. Death by 1,000 tiny passive-aggressive cuts. I'd learned from the master, after all. The whole family was there. Marcus and Simone with their boys, Theo and Liam, Royce's younger sister, Petra, with her husband and toddler, who was currently screaming about something toddler-related. His father, Hugh, already halfway through his first scotch, which honestly seemed like a reasonable life choice. 16 people total, gathered in the formal dining room that probably cost more than my first car and my second car combined. Simone smiled at me across the table. That fake, saccharine smile she always used. The smile of someone who thinks they're getting away with something. "Marin, you look tired. Everything okay?" Oh, Simone. Sweet, stupid Simone. "Everything's perfect," I said, matching her energy with the precision of a sniper. "Never better, actually. Life is just wonderful. How are you? How's everything with you and Marcus?" Her smile faltered for just a second. "Good. We're great. Just great." Marcus caught my eye. Gave me the tiniest nod. "Game on. Let's do this." Dinner was painful in that special way that family dinners are painful. Lorraine complained about the turkey being dry. It wasn't. It was perfect. She just likes complaining. Hugh lectured about politics like anyone asked. Petra talked about her toddler's developmental milestones like he was curing cancer instead of just learning to use a spoon. Royce sat next to me, pushing food around his plate, barely speaking, looking like a man at his own funeral. Accurate. Simone, on the other hand, was chatty. Extra chatty. Almost manic. She kept touching Marcus's arm, calling him honey, with the enthusiasm of a game show host, overcompensating so hard it was embarrassing to watch. "Lady, you're not fooling anyone. Except maybe Hugh, but he's on his third scotch." Finally, dessert. Pumpkin pie, apple pie, my Costco contribution sitting there like a middle finger made of pastry, coffee. Everyone settling in, getting comfortable. Marcus stood up. "Showtime." "Hey everyone, before we finish I wanted to share something. I put together a little video. Family memories, that kind of thing. Thought we could watch it together." Lorraine clapped her hands like a trained seal. "Oh, how lovely. Marcus, you're so thoughtful. So much better than store-bought pie." Was that directed at me? Absolutely. Did I care? Not even a little. "I try," Marcus said, wheeling out the projector he'd hidden in the hall closet earlier. "Marin actually helped me with some of the editing. She's really good with technology. Very talented." All eyes turned to me. I smiled innocently, like butter wouldn't melt in my mouth, just happy to help with family projects. The lights dimmed. The projector hummed to life like a dragon waking up. Marcus plugged in his laptop, and the video started. Title card: Family Values, A love story. Oh, we'd workshopped that title. We were very proud of it. The timestamp appeared. Tuesday, September 9th, 2:17 p.m. The footage showed our living room. Empty at first. Then Royce entered with the blonde woman. They sat on the couch, started kissing. Lorraine gasped like someone had stabbed her. What is this? What are we watching? Keep watching, Mom, Marcus said, voice ice cold, colder than her usual demeanor. It gets better. The video cut to another timestamp. Wednesday, September 18th, 4:33 p.m. Same living room. Royce and Simone this time. Drinking wine, my wine, laughing. The body language unmistakable even without audio. Oh my God, Petra whispered, hand over her mouth. Simone stood up so fast her chair fell over with a crash. Turn it off. Turn it off right now. Not yet, Marcus said calmly. We're just getting to the good part. The character development is really strong in the second act. The video continued. Multiple timestamps. Multiple encounters. Nothing explicit. I'd cut it carefully. We're not animals. But absolutely damning. The intimacy. The familiarity. The betrayal captured in glorious high definition. Every touch. Every laugh. Every moment of them thinking they'd gotten away with it. Royce tried to stand. Dad, I can explain. Sit down, Hugh said, voice like thunder. Like God himself was disappointed. Watch what you've done. Watch all of it. The video ended with a final title card. Footage courtesy of Marin's home security system. Recorded September-October 2024. 18 cameras. 0 regrets. Silence. Complete, absolute, beautiful silence. The kind of silence that happens before an explosion. Then Lorraine turned to me, face contorted with fury, pearls practically vibrating with rage. You recorded them? In your own house? That's illegal. That's an invasion of privacy. That's… Actually, I said calmly, like I was discussing the weather. Illinois is a one-party consent state. My house, my cameras, completely legal. My attorney confirmed it. I have paperwork if you'd like to see it. Very thorough paperwork. You knew, she hissed at Marcus, redirecting her fury like a sprinkler system. You helped her with this humiliation. I found out 4 days ago, Marcus said, standing his ground. From Simone's text messages. She called me boring, Mom, said I was adequate but uninspiring. Meanwhile, she was sleeping with my brother in his wife's house, drinking their wine, using their bedroom. So yeah, Mom, I helped. And I'd do it again. I'd do it twice. Simone was crying, mascara running down her face like a sad raccoon. Marcus, please, it wasn't… It's not… Don't, he said, holding up a hand. Just don't. The boys are going to my parents' house tonight. You're not coming. We'll figure out custody later. But right now, you need to leave. This is insane. Simone looked around for support, found none. Everyone was staring at her like she'd grown a second head. Lorraine, Hugh, please. This is a misunderstanding. This is… A misunderstanding. I laughed. Actually laughed. Couldn't help it. You were sleeping with your husband's brother, in my house, while I was at PTA meetings listening to Karen from Elmhurst complain about fundraiser logistics. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a choice. Multiple choices. A whole series of choices. Royce finally spoke. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. I never meant for any of this to… Get out, Hugh said quietly. Quietly was worse than yelling. Both of you, Royce, Simone, get out of my house. Now. Dad. Now. Not quiet anymore. They left. Simone sobbing, Royce pale and silent like a ghost. The door slammed behind them with the finality of a coffin closing. Lorraine turned to me, eyes blazing with enough fury to power a small city. You've destroyed this family. No, I said, standing up, gathering my purse, channeling every ounce of dignity I had. They destroyed it. I just provided the evidence, the documentation, the visual aids. I'm just the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. You're cruel. I'm honest, I corrected. There's a difference. Girls, get your coats. We're going home. Tessa and Cleo, who'd been watching everything with wide eyes like they were at a really interesting movie, scrambled to follow me. They'd have questions later. So many questions. But right now, we were leaving. As we walked out, Marcus caught my arm. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you," I replied. In the car, Cleo asked from the back seat, "Mom, what just happened?" "Grown-up problems, baby," I said, starting the engine. "But everything's going to be okay, I promise." Better than okay. And for the first time in months, I actually believed it. 6 months later, I'm sitting on my back porch, my porch, in my house, because the divorce settlement gave me everything I asked for and then some. Watching Tessa and Cleo play in the yard, and I'm thinking about how much can change when you stop accepting the narrative someone else writes for you. Plot twist. You get to write your own ending. Who knew? The divorce was finalized in March. Quick, clean, and absolutely brutal for Royce. Turns out, when you have video evidence of sustained infidelity involving a family member, judges aren't particularly sympathetic to your requests for equal asset division. They're especially unsympathetic when you also use the company card for affair hotels. That really sealed the deal. I got the house, obviously. 70% of our savings, which felt fair considering I'd managed them while he was managing his affair schedule. His entire 401k because Illinois judges don't love cheaters. Primary custody of the girls, because Tessa literally told the judge, "I want to live with Mom, Dad's kind of a mess right now." Out of the mouths of babes. And child support that makes my accountant smile every month, which is saying something because accountants don't smile easily. Royce got a 1-bedroom apartment in Bolingbrook. You know, the place where dreams go to die, and supervised visitation every other weekend. Last I heard, he's working at a different logistics company making about 40% less than before. Turns out, his old employer wasn't thrilled about the whole company card for personal hotels situation. Something about misuse of corporate resources and violation of ethics policy. Who could have predicted that consequences would happen? Not Royce, apparently. Simone and Marcus's divorce was even messier, which I didn't think was possible, but Simone really went for the gold in the Making Everything Worse Olympics. Marcus got their house too. We both got houses. We should start a support group. People who got houses after their spouses were terrible. And primary custody. Simone moved to a studio apartment in Lisle and apparently works at a real estate office now, trying to rebuild her life one overpriced suburban home at a time. The irony of her selling dream homes while her own marriage exploded is not lost on me. Her boys, Theo and Liam, chose to stay with Marcus primarily. Teenagers are old enough to make those decisions, and apparently, they weren't particularly forgiving about Mom's extracurricular activities with Uncle Royce. Kids these days. So judgmental about infidelity. The family fracture was absolute, complete, total. Hiroshima had nothing on the Thibault family post-video premiere. Lorraine tried to blame me for exactly 3 weeks before Hugh, surprisingly, shockingly, shut that down. Told her that I didn't create the problem, I just exposed it, and maybe she should focus on the fact that her son destroyed 2 marriages instead of shooting the messenger. I almost liked Hugh after that. Almost. They don't invite me to family gatherings anymore, which is fine because I was only going for the free food anyway, and it wasn't even that good. But they do send birthday cards to Tessa and Cleo, so there's that. Progress. Baby steps. Maybe by the time the girls are 30, we'll be able to be in the same room without tension. Maybe. Marcus and I stayed friends. Not romantic. God, no. We've both had enough of the Thibault family drama to last several lifetimes. But we text occasionally. Trauma bonding is real, apparently. He's dating someone new, a teacher from Oak Park who has no connection to our suburban nightmare and thinks our story is wild and like a movie. He seems happy, lighter, like someone removed a backpack full of rocks from his shoulders. As for me, that blog I started, Receipts and Revenge, actually took off. Like, really took off. Turns out, America has an endless appetite for stories about surveillance, betrayal, and satisfying endings. Who knew? Everyone, apparently. Everyone knew. I monetized it, started a YouTube channel reading stories from other people who'd caught their spouses doing ridiculous things, and somehow accidentally created a whole career out of my divorce. I'm making more money now than I ever did as a stay-at-home mom. which was $0, so low bar, but actually more than Royce makes at his new job, which feels poetic. Karma isn't just a concept, it's a paycheck. Every week, women message me asking for advice about their own situations. Men too, sometimes. I tell them all the same thing. Document everything, trust your gut, and never let someone convince you that your reality isn't real. Also, Best Buy has great deals on security cameras. 18 cameras might seem like overkill, but is it really? Is it? Tessa handled the divorce better than I expected. She's in therapy. We all are. Therapy is basically our new hobby. And she actually told me last month that she respects me more now than before. "You didn't just take it, Mom," she said. "You did something about it. You didn't just cry and accept it." High praise from an 11-year-old who's not easily impressed and has opinions about everything. Cleo still asks when Daddy's coming home sometimes. Those moments hurt like a physical wound. But she's adjusting. Kids are resilient in ways adults forget to be. She's also started asking if she can have a camera in her room to catch the tooth fairy. Not quite the lesson I was going for, but sure, kid. Sure. The cameras are still up, by the way. All 18 of them. Not because I'm paranoid. Okay, maybe a little paranoid. But because they're actually a really good security system. Plus, they remind me every day that I trusted my instincts, I took action, and I refused to be gaslit into believing I was crazy. The blinking red lights are like tiny victory flags. People ask me if I regret the public confrontation, if I would do it differently. The answer is no. Could I have handled it privately? Sure. Quiet divorce, sealed records, keep the family intact for appearances. We could have all pretended everything was fine at Christmas. Very civilized, very mature. But here's what I learned. Keeping up appearances is what allowed the whole situation to happen in the first place. Everyone in that family knew Royce was problematic. His mother knew he was a cheater. He'd done it in previous relationships. Everyone just conveniently forgot to mention that before the wedding. They just expected me to handle it quietly, gracefully, like a good suburban wife. Smile and endure. That's the Thibault way. The public confrontation wasn't cruelty. It was honesty. It was refusing to be complicit in my own humiliation. It was saying, no, actually, we're not going to pretend this is fine. Last week, I ran into the blonde woman at Target. Because of course I did. Target is where all suburban drama happens. Recognized her immediately, even though we'd never officially met. She saw me, froze like a deer in headlights, then tried to hide behind a display of throw pillows. Like throw pillows would save her. I walked right up to her because I'm not 17 anymore and I don't do awkward avoidance. "Hey, quick question. Did he ever tell you he was married?" She went pale. Legitimately pale. I didn't know about you until later, I swear. I ended it as soon as I found out." "When did you find out?" "When he called me, panicking, said his wife had been recording everything. He was freaking out. That's when I realized, yeah." I nodded. "Interesting. Okay, thanks for the honesty. I'm really sorry," she added quietly, looking at her shoes like they were fascinating. "I wouldn't have, if I'd known." "I believe you," I said. And weirdly, I did. She seemed genuine. "He's really good at lying. Trust me, I had 12 years of practice not catching on. You had no chance." She left. I bought my groceries. The world kept turning. Life went on. Here's the thing about betrayal. It changes you fundamentally, but you get to choose how. It can make you bitter, suspicious, closed off, unable to trust anyone ever again. Or it can make you stronger, smarter, more aware of your own worth and what you won't tolerate. I chose option 2. Highly recommend. My life now isn't what I planned at 26 when I married Royce with stars in my eyes and stupidity in my heart. It's not the suburban dream with the perfect family and the white picket fence and the golden retriever. But it's honest. It's mine. And nobody's writing the script except me. I'm the director now. Executive producer. Lead actress. The whole production. Tessa just scored a goal in the backyard soccer game she's playing with Cleo. She's laughing, triumphant, completely present in this moment. That's what I'm building now. Not a performance, not an image for the neighbors, just a real life, with real problems, real solutions, and real joy. Messy and imperfect and mine. They say what happens at home stays at home. But honey, that was before Ring cameras became everyone's favorite marriage counselor. And before women like me decided we were done being silent about what happens behind closed doors. That was before 18 wireless cameras and a YouTube channel. The truth might hurt, but secrets hurt more. And staying silent? That hurts most of all. I'm done with secrets, done with silence, done with accepting less than I deserve. And honestly, I've never been happier. Turns out the best revenge isn't just living well. It's living honestly, loudly, and on your own terms. And maybe installing a really good security system.